Buenos días, vecinos. En Colombia hay un poco de festivos, pero hay 17 en el año entero. Muchos caen los lunes y forman un puente. That's what we call a 3-day weekend around here. We call it a puente. Hay otros que los dicen fijos, que se celebran la fecha. There's other ones you celebrate on the date, no matter if it happens on a Monday or Friday or Wednesday or whatever day. We got January 6th, Dia de los Reyes. We got Independence Day, 20 de julio. We got El Cartagena, el 11 de noviembre. Today I'm going to talk about el 7 de agosto. This is when we celebrate la Batalla de Boyacá. This is the battle that effectively ended the revolution. This battle is just as important in Colombian history as the Battle of Yorktown is for the Americans or the Battle of Hastings for the British. Today I'm going to talk about the campaign that ended with la Batalla de Boyacá on August 7, 1819, and why this was so important. Alright, vamos. Alright, let me set the scene for you. Let me give you a little background, especially for my friends north of the border. Alright, so you know Napoleon. We've all heard Napoleon, the co-star from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Well, do you know what else he did? He took over half of Europe, man. They defeated him, and they sent him out to an island, an exile. And then you know what he did? He escaped and did it again. Yeah, Napoleon was a badass. Well, in the middle of all those escapades, he invaded Spain. He kicked out King Charles IV, he kicked out his son Fernando VII, put his own brother on the throne, and Spain was in complete chaos. Some people wanted to embrace their new French overlords, other people wanted to stay loyal to the king, other people were just trying not to get shot. In the middle of all this chaos, the colonies in America thought, hey, this is a good time to have a revolution. Spain's in chaos. As we say in Colombia, toca aprovechar. Well, eventually they defeated Napoleon. Fernando VII got back on the throne, but he was a dick. Even today, historians call him El Rey Felon. And one of his first priorities was taking care of those revolutions over there in the Americas. So he sent someone over to Cartagena, I can't remember his name. They sieged that city for like 100 days. It was a really bad scene. People were getting sick, people were getting cholera, people were starving to death. Stories I read, people were eating dogs and cats just to stay alive. So think about that the next time you're drinking a Chardonnay inside the walled city. It wasn't always so pretty in Getsamani. Well, what the Spanish were calling La Reconquista de Colombia didn't take very long. Here in Colombia, we're going through this period, what we call the Patria Boba. That's for another video. Go look it up yourself, La Patria Boba. Anyway, pretty soon, the rebels were on their back foot. They were all the way pushed back to Casanare. Casanare is on the eastern plains of Colombia. This is what we call Los Llanos. This is cowboy country. It's really beautiful out there. Great sunsets. The horizon is like a million miles away. It looks a lot like Nebraska, Kansas, North Texas. This is ranching country. These are like the plains of Colombia. So the rebels were trapped up there in Casanare. It was right about that time that Simón Bolívar came on the scene. He brought an English battalion with him, and he hooked up with the General Santander in Tame, Arauca. Arauca is also on the eastern plains. It's up there. If you go to Tame, Arauca today, there's a little spot they call El Parque del Encuentro, and there's a monument to where the two generals met up. Why is there a monument right there? Because this is where the whole campaign started. Alright, so they knew the Spanish army was spread pretty thin across the whole country, terrorizing the population. Everybody hated them. And that left Santa Fe pretty vulnerable. The full name of the city is Santa Fe de Bogotá. Today we call it Bogotá, but back then they called it Santa Fe. They knew the Spanish forces were spread out pretty thin across the whole country, taking care of the guerrilla warfare. The plan was to go from Tame to Santa Fe, take over the capital, and get their country back. But if you know Colombia, you know there's a lot of geographical obstacles that keep you from getting from here to there really quickly. So their first challenge was to go over El Páramo de Pispa. So if you're from North America, you probably never heard of a páramo. Páramos don't exist in North America, so if you're not really sure what a páramo is, if you haven't been to Colombia, think of it as like a high altitude wetland. I'm talking really high, like 2,500 meters, 8,000 feet. It's all full of lakes and cold water. It's really chilly up there. Beautiful, but really chilly. There's these frailejones, these plants up there, they're called frailejones. Yeah, they're fucking cool. That's for another video, anyway. Bueno, hoy en día para los colombianos, un pasadía en el páramo es una chimba. Ponemos medias, ponemos un suéter, bufondas, guantes, gorra, todo eso. Vestimos para el frío. Vamos a una caminata, Tomamos unos selfies con Ernesto Pérez, nos coge el frío, volvemos a casa, hacemos un cafecito, preparamos un chocolate, echamos quesito, estamos bien. Pero en 1819 ese clima era arrecho, mano. Los frailejones no te dan calor, y no sirven para leña tampoco. Muchos murieron, muchos se enfermaron, era muy triste. Pero al final lograron cruzar el páramo gracias a la ayuda de la gente en los pueblitos. En cada pueblito donde llegaron, todos les dieron bienvenidos. Les dieron comida, descanso, caballos, bueno, lo que necesitaban. Cuando llegaron a Belén, una mujer les regaló su sardino de 11 años. Ay, Libertador, por favor, lleve mi niño. Pedro Pascasio es un niño de 11 años, es muy juicioso. Y bueno, sí. Entonces, párale bolas, Pedro Pascasio. Remember that name because that kid's gonna come back into our story a little later on. Alright, so our heroes crossed the Paramo, came down out of the mountains, and it's smooth sailing all the way to Santa Fe, right? Wrong. Because when they got to the Pantano de Vargas, they saw on the other side of the swamp, there's this big hill, and guess what was up on that hill? Two of the best divisions of the Spanish army. Bailas. But we had some secret weapons though. So we had a few secret weapons, like we had a British battalion on our side. Bolivar had gone to London, asked the king for help, and King George III was just crazy enough to say, yeah, I'll send the Irish. So Colonel James Rooke and a bunch of his Irish troops came over to Colombia to help us fight the Spanish. Thanks, guys. And actually, a lot of those Irish troops stayed in Colombia after the war was over. They didn't go back home to Ireland. And that's why we have a lot of natural redheads in Colombia, especially in Boyacá and Cundinamarca. And we had another secret weapon, Juan José Rondón. And I gotta say, to me, Juan José Rondón is the most interesting protagonist of this whole saga. Juan José was from Guánico, Venezuela, so he was Venezuelan. Also on the Llanos, remember? Cowboy country. He was a rancher, and he actually enlisted in the Spanish army. Got up to captain, but he was so disgusted with the way he saw Spanish treating the local people. So in 1817, he went to the other side. Pa quitar esos malditos españoles. So Juan José brought some important things to the game. One thing, he was a rancher, so whenever the Patriot Army needed horses, he was the point guy. Another thing, he had a posse. Obviously, what cowboy doesn't have a posse? I've heard different numbers, so I don't know how many people were riding with him, but it was probably more than 50 and less than 100. But what his posse was really known for was the Lancers. These Lancers were badass. And you always hear people talk about los 14 jinetes de Rondón. These guys were fierce. Can you imagine being a Spanish soldier and having one of those guys come up on you on the battlefield? La Batalla de Pantano Vargas was long and arduous. Most of the day it was kind of a stalemate. Both sides had a lot of casualties. Colonel Rooke actually lost his left arm. And the whole time, Juan José Rondón was like, hey General, where should I go? Left flank, right flank? And Bolivar all day long was like, paciencia Rondón, espera, espera. So it was getting toward the end of the day, and they thought it was just going to be a stalemate call tonight. But then General Bereiro charged down the hill just one last time. He was like, all right, I'm going for it. Not even God can take this victory away from me today. And so Bolivar saw this charge coming down, and he thought, oh shit, we lost the battle. So it was right about then that Juan José Rondón walked up and was like, Su Merced, ¿cómo que perdimos la batalla si no hemos peleado? How can you say that we're losing the battle? You haven't even put my guys in yet. And then Bolivar said one of those iconic lines in Colombian history. He's like, Rondón, salve usted la patria. Now historians like to make this into like a really noble moment. You know, General Bolivar sending our hero off into battle. Rondón, save the country. But I think there's something else going on here. But those are fighting words. Because if you've been with a Latina, you know when she says, Amor, lave usted la losa. Eso no es cariño, eso es pa' joder. And Bolivar said, Rondón, salve usted la patria. Y Juan José Rondón, como venezolano que se respete, dijo, General, hold my beer. So Rondón ran up the hill. Y me siguen los valientes. And his 14 jinetes, or lancers, they followed him and they kicked some ass. I mean, really, can you imagine one of those guys just coming up on you with a big lance, It's like jousting, but jousting with a sharpened spear. You got two choices, run or run faster. Okay, ¿qué más? Bailas. If you go to Paipa today, there's a really cool monument. They're going up the hill, and I like it because it looks really realistic. If you go check out the monument, it looks really realistic, and it's all chaotic too. Like all the horses and soldiers are like intertwined, you know. It almost looks like a big thorn bush or something. It's really cool. If you're ever in Paipa, near Paipa, it's in the Tunja metro area. Just go check out that monument. It's really cool. Y así ganaron las patriotas en la Batalla de Pantano Vargas. So after their decisive defeat at the Batalla de Pantano Vargas, the Spanish army was in no condition to fight any more battles. The only thing they could really do was limp back to Santa Fe, regroup, maybe get reinforcements, figure it out from there. Well, Santander and Bolivar were not going to let them do that. So now you see the tables are turned. Before, it was the Spanish royalists trying to prevent the patriots from getting to Santa Fe. Now, the patriotas trying to prevent the Spanish royalists from getting to Santa Fe. Se fueron a Tunja y liberaron esta ciudad. I can't imagine how happy those people were. They've just been suffering for years under the oppression of the Spanish during the Reconquista and the Reign of Terror. That's actually what they call it, the Reign of Terror, after the Reconquista. If you go to Tunja today, they've actually preserved a wall. It's called El Muro de los Mártires. This is a wall where the Spanish would line up rebel soldiers, line up rebel spies, and shoot them with a firing squad. It's actually pretty eerie. You can see the bullet holes in the back. It's a really interesting artifact. So if you're in Tunja, go check out El Muro de los Mártires. It's kind of cool. So they looked at a map and they found this choke point where the Spanish had to slow down a little bit to go over the river Teatinas. And this is where they were going to ambush them. Unlike La Batalla de Pantano Vargas, the Batalla de Boyacá was really short. It only lasted about 2 hours. The Patriots actually surprised the rebel forces when they were sitting down for lunch. General Santander went in, took care of the vanguard. Juan Jose Rondon took care of the rear guard. In just a couple hours, they had managed to capture 1,600 Spanish soldiers. They killed or captured most of the high-ranking officials, all except one. But General Bereiro had escaped. Where the hell was he? Well, that's where our friend Pedro comes in. ¿Y quién le descubrió? Nada más y nada menos de nuestro chino de Belén, Pedro Pascasio. Pedro Pascasio y su compañero negro José cuidaban los caballos en el área cuando encontraron el General Bereiro. The general of the Spanish army was hiding in between the rocks not too far from the battlefield. He had a whole saddlebag full of gold, and he offered it to the boys if they let him escape. Pedro Pascasio said, "No, all the gold in the world can't buy the freedom of a nation." And even today, Pedro Pascasio kind of lives on in Colombian pop culture as a symbol of integrity. Pedro Pascasio is a symbol of someone you can't bribe, someone with values, someone who sticks to his guns. Después de la Batalla de Boyacá, the revolution was effectively over. There was nothing left for the Spanish to do but cry and go home. The Patriots could march unopposed all the way to Santa Fe, and that's what they did. Cuando el virrey Sámano escuchó de la derrota, se fue de Bogotá de una vez, porque sabía que Bolívar y Santander venían. He tried to make a last stand in Cartagena, but that was futile. So on August 10th, 1819, General Santander, General Bolívar, they all marched into Bogotá, and everyone was thrilled to see them. They were welcomed with open arms, just like they were in the villages of the Páramo. They were welcomed in the capital, Bogotá. Now this wall here hasn't changed very much in 200 years, but the area around the Puente de Boyacá is really different. The bridge itself was so damaged during the battle it had to be replaced. The one you see there now was built in 1919 on the 100th anniversary of the battle. The whole area is surrounded by monuments to Santander, monuments to Bolívar. There's even a monument to Pedro Pascasio and his compañero. Entonces, vecinos, thanks for watching this video. I hope you feel a little bit smarter now than you did half an hour ago. Now you know a little bit more about La Batalla de Boyacá, why we celebrate August 7th. Doesn't matter if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, it's always a festivo. Alright, ciao vecinos, que estén muy bien.
Aquí termina esta parte de la historia. Lo sucedido en la batalla de Boyacá.